It's 5:05. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the richest bands, nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sarah, can you do roll call, please?
President Bucher,
Here.
Bill Hopkins,
Here.
Ron Gant,
Here.
Dennis Faber,
Here.
Angela Brooks. Here. Pete Polly,
Here.
Bill Bryant.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Did we meet open meeting compliance?
Yes, the original agenda was posted on Friday with an amended agenda posted online and at Village Hall on.
Great. All right. Hearing on application for sex offender residency exemption under code 493-5. Consideration and possible action regarding a request for an appeal from the provisions of the village's sex offender residency restrictions for Joshua Cobalt, 9416 276th Avenue, Salem, Wisconsin, 53168. This is a quasi judicial hearing as set forth in and pursuant to Village Code Section 493-5. The board will hear from the applicant and any interested party.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. So just some very general housekeeping. One of the reasons that the agenda was revised late Friday, early Saturday morning was simply to add into the agenda an opportunity for the parties to go into closed session if there was any potential for sensitive medical information or the like that might be discussed. It gives both sides that opportunity to do that if necessary. And so if we're going to get into a discussion of particulars of medical records, treatment records, or anything like that, just say, I'd like to, let's put a flag on that, and then we'll all convene into closed session together with the applicant too, and then we could discuss the particulars of that record, okay? So this is, as Madam President pointed out, the board is convened tonight not in its legislative capacity, but in its quasi judicial capacity. And so the applicant will be allowed to go first, present his case, any witnesses, any information he has. The board may ask questions along the way that go to matters of fact or how certain facts may apply to your ordinance. And there are some standards under 493-5 that you have to look at in considering this application. So as long as the facts, if you feel a question will help pull facts that might be germane to those factors, you may ask those questions. And then after the applicant's case, then there'll be an opportunity for staff or anyone representing staff or the village to present any information. And then finally, after that, there'll be an opportunity for any other interested party that may be in the room to present. So with that, Madam President, you can ask the applicant to come up and present his case. And then we'll go from there, and I'll help you along the way with any logistics.
Great.
Does the applicant have any questions or concerns about the procedures under the ordinance or the procedures I just laid out tonight? Okay, thank you very much, Madam President.
Okay, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Speak into the microphone if you would. Thank you.
Joshua Charles Cobalt, 9416 276th Avenue, Salem, Wisconsin, 53168. I submitted the request for exemption on it. My parole agent had told me that I need to. I purchased the home in January of 2024 after the incident, and my wife and I are attempting to reconcile. I chose the area because it's close to my family so that I can stay connected to them. At the time, I wasn't on the list. I wasn't aware of any of the ordinances, and I want to do everything the right way. So that's why I submitted the application as soon as I found out that I needed to and got it to you guys. I presented the board with a significant amount of reading. It's everything that went into the case. The beach in question, I have no line of sight of that. I guess I'd open myself up to your questions on what exactly I can do to make you feel more comfortable with my presence.
You know what the state statute calls?
You mean distance? 1,500 feet, sir,
From
from public parks, anywhere where children congregate, sir.
any more application. It specifically was in.
Correct, sir.
It was.
Uh, there was no actual victim, but yes, I fell into a sting and they got me. So,
Was a victim. Had it not been sting.
yes, sir.
Ramsey, is it fair at this time that we can kind of get a summary from Lieutenant Gilly?
I think so that we have a little bit of order, let's really try to drill down into the application and the applicant. And if the applicant, has other witnesses, he can present that, and then we'll go to, Gilly. We can always ask the applicant to come back up and really give the applicant that opportunity to respond to anything that might come through from Lieutenant Gilly.
And are we allowed to ask for Mr. Cobalt to kind of give his side of the story on what happened?
You can ask me anything you want. I have nothing to
Yeah,
hide. It's
you-
all out in the open there.
That's correct. You can ask the applicant any question you'd like.
Yeah, could you kind of run us through?
Summary of the situation? Yes, ma'am. As my mental state deteriorated, my relationship was deteriorating. As a means of coping, I had decided that I was going to have an affair on my wife. I went on to an adult website geared towards that. Answered an ad for a 20-year-old woman. After conversing with this person, which was the detective, they informed me that they were 12. The conversation continued, unfortunately. It became explicit and a meetup was agreed to where I was arrested.
How long did that happen? Over what period of time?
I think it was 6 days
6 days
of conversation on and off throughout that
from
period.
start to finish?
Yes, ma'am.
And at what point in that 6 days did you find out that they said that they were 12?
Later on the first day of conversation, the first day of conversation was essentially me trying to talk to them and why they're doing this. The second, and then after cutting off communication with me after that first day, they reached out again the second day and started conversing again. And then after a while, the conversation became explicit, unfortunately.
And who started that?
I did.
The first day you started that?
No, ma'am. The second day, the conversation became explicit.
So the first day, was it? It was not you it got explicit.
There was no explicit conversation necessarily the first day.
Okay.
The first mention of sex was from me, and it was why are you on this website to have sex with older men? The second day, it continued in that vein for a while, and then unfortunately, for whatever reason I'm exploring in my mental health treatment, it became explicit.
On day 6. So the second about explicit, third and fourth, and the 6th day. So we're going to try to beat up someone.
That's how it evolved. Yes, sir. It was from my recollection.
Was it just talk or were there photos also?
There were no photos exchanged other than face photos. At one point, they had actually asked, trying to remember exactly how they had worded it. Because I had asked them if they were even real. And they said, oh geez, this is the part where you ask me for more pictures to prove that I'm real. And I said, no, that's not what I'm asking for. This is me showing you that there's a leap of faith being made. Just face photos, sir.
And what day did that happen? That you got the photos?
Either the first or second day. It might have been the second day, actually. I think the initial message that I sent was when I was responding to the ad for a 20-year-old, it was a body picture, but clothed with my face covered. And then the second day, face photos were exchanged.
So then after you were arrested, kind of take us through what happened then to get you to here today.
So I was arrested. I spent 15 days in the Waukesha County Jail. My family made bail. I was released on bail and immediately sought help through the Milwaukee VA. I was admitted into a 6-week inpatient PTSD session for their PTSD treatment and mental health facility. Stayed there, graduated from that. Once I got out, I lived in a hotel while I was searching for a home that would keep me close to my family so that I could reconcile. Found the home, got into that, was enrolled in ongoing one-on-one VA mental health treatment at the Union Grove VA facility, where I see my doctor once a month. While in the inpatient treatment facility, I was also enrolled in a call-in PTSD support group, where I call in weekly. That's on Thursdays. And then after I found my home, I then went on a job search, found a job, was working for a construction company that's based out of Janesville in Milwaukee. Worked with them up till about a month before my trial / plea was. I informed my boss of what was going on so that I wouldn't just not show up to work one day. I wanted him to be aware. He said, okay. They talked to legal because of the nature of the conviction and the work they do with schools. They had to let me go prior to my conviction. And I was informed that if I'm not convicted, I can get with them and come back, but well, I can't. So now I'm currently retired and on house arrest, working through that.
And how long is that?
The house arrest, man?
Yeah.
6 months. I'll be done with that September 17th. And then it's 3 years concurrent probation as well.
And had you been in any trouble prior to this?
No, man. 20 years of service in the Army. I'm not originally from Wisconsin. Originally, I'm from Michigan. I came to Wisconsin because my last duty assignment was small Army ROTC detachment on Great Lakes Naval Station. And my wife and I weren't exactly fans of living in Illinois. So we started looking here in Wisconsin and we both fell in love with the place and decided to stay.
So you bought the house last January or?
January of 2024, man.
Okay, all right. Are you living there right now?
Yes, ma'am. That's
And-
where my court ordered
And your wife?
confinement was to.
Okay,
My
your
wife
is
lives,
with-
I also own a second home in the area, 95th Place. It's across the same lake. That's where my wife and children live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they're nearby
Yes, very close.
and you're in the house alone.
Yes, ma'am. I have the dog right now.
Okay, so don't.
The computer was my cell phone, but I was living at 95th Place, my address over there, where my wife and kids currently reside.
And I don't know anything about house arrest. What are the conditions with that?
I'm on 2 ankle monitors, one for alcohol and drugs, another for GPS. I received a special exemption to come here to meet with you guys today. That was cleared through my probation agent, as well as the Huber enforcement people in Waukesha County. Other than that, I have to stay at the house. I get 1 day a week with 3 hours to go grocery shopping or run any errands necessary. I'm allowed release according to the court order for any mental health appointments, any work, childcare, uh, special exemptions as authorized by the officers that I submit an application to.
If I heard you correctly, you said that you initially responded to someone who was claiming they were 20 years old.
Yes, sir. The initial ad was for a 20-year-old woman.
How did the child enticement thing come about then?
Because they identified themselves as 12 and I continued to converse with them.
How long into that first day did you find that out?
I don't recall exactly. I only know it was the first day.
Do you know how far your house is currently from Camp Wonderland? The Salvation Army camp?
No, I measured to the beach because I figured that was closer.
Oh. Oh, okay,
I would, eyeballing it, I would guess somewhere. It's probably about 1,200 feet.
okay, and then the beach at the end of your.
That is 1,239 feet according to online maps.
Okay,
There is a park, however, that's between 500 and 600 feet from your house, correct?
If there's a park, I'm not aware of it. I know that the beach and the park are the same, I think. I don't go down there. In fact, my mom went down there to,
Yeah, and there is actual playground. 560, yeah, 560, 580, something like that.
I can't even see it from my house, so I didn't know it was there.
Mhm.
How long are you going to be out in sex offender?
The mandatory requirement was 15 years. There's 15 years or there's life. That's the only two.
do your neighbors currently, do they know? Your neighbors currently?
The ones who live next to me right now, no, my neighbors in my wife's neighborhood all know, and they're the ones that I sat down with, and I've been very open through the process, and that's all I can be at this point.
Mhm.
I don't want anyone to be uncomfortable on account of me. So I've been really open and honest, answering questions from anyone. The neighbors around me, I don't see them much, coming and going, we wave, but I don't really talk to them.
And when did you find out about our ordinance? Location?
It would have been, I think, 3 or 4 days before I submitted the application. My PO and I talked about it, and she's the one who informed me of the process and how I need to do it. I think it was either that week. I submitted on a Friday. Was it a Friday? And so it would have been, I think not the Thursday right before, but the Thursday prior to that at my meeting with her.
Anybody else have any questions?
If it helps the board as you think about questions, you can certainly ask questions that relate to the factors under section 439-5, and I believe you all have the code in front of you. So there's 11 different factors, maybe and other circumstances and criteria. So I think you've done good. I know you don't do a lot of these, and I think you've done a good job asking questions so far, but to help you get your mind thinking about the facts you need to pull and the factors, you can certainly look at those factors and ask questions that may pertain to. But you've done a good job so far.
I do.
I also point out one other thing as housekeeping. As I understand from Madam Clerk, this application packet is much larger, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I think you rightfully didn't put the whole packet into the portal. Probably thinking of public records consequences. So, but my question to the board is, do you have this full packet?
No. They have what I included in front of you with the agenda. But that whole big pack with all the sticky notes and everything, that was not given to them or copied for today.
And are these your sticky notes describing documents or the applicants?
Nope, those were from Mr. Cabal.
It was a lot to take in, so I figured I'd highlight main
Yeah.
points for.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. So what I'm going through in my mind is how do we get this to the whole board? Let me continue to look at this so I can understand its contents. In the meantime, if you have more questions of the applicant, to make do so.
So I do have something, and I apologize if I missed it in what we have so far, but do you own this home that you're in or do you rent this one?
I own it, sir.
You own it?
I own both homes.
Own both homes.
For your knowledge, I guess, the packet I also I submitted is essentially everything from my sentencing hearing that we provided to the judge, including character letters, mental health reports by several doctors and mental health professionals, the full transcript of my sentencing hearing with the court's opinion, as well as expert testimony pertaining to my mental health as far as safety concerns. I was tested significantly by mental health professionals as far as safety goes, towards psychopathy, sexual dysfunction, pedophilia. I was found negative for all of those in the testing. It's a very thorough process that I was submitted to, and they went through my whole life. No other evidence of any child exploitation material has been found anywhere because there is none. And they searched everything that they could.
I did have a chance now to go through the full packet. So that we have a good record of what is before the board. Right now, we have your application. We have the letter from the Department of Corrections dated May 7th. We have the circuit court docket, which is likely, looks like a 3-page printout from CCAP. And we have a letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs dated April 25th. And then we have just a simple cover letter from Joseph Hanger Enterprises dated April 14th, 2025. That's what the board has in front of them. I think the clerk did a good job in holding back a few documents. I think we would need to discuss whether or not these weren't going into closed session. One of them is a certificate that you completed for successful completion of domiciliary 123. Is this something that you?
That's the 6-week inpatient treatment at the VA, sir. Everything that I gave you guys, I am fully okay with the.
Okay, and this is something that can be shared with the board this evening?
Absolutely, sir.
If this hearing does need to be continued, we'll make sure that the board gets all of this in some kind of confidential fashion. The other thing that's in here is a grouping of letters from various persons that went to Judge Michael Boren, who presided over the criminal proceeding. It seemed to be dated of range of February to March of 2025. Is this stuff, is there anything, sir, in here that you feel is
No, sir.
sensitive and personal that can only be reviewed in closed session?
No, I'm okay with everyone seeing it. That's
Okay.
various character statements from friends of mine in the army, uh, my family, my wife's family, as well as members of my community that wrote character letters to the judge for me.
Okay, the last set of documents would be the criminal complaint along with a confidential report of Hanger Enterprises. Who is Hanger?
He is the Hanger Enterprises is responsible for all of the sex offender treatment within the Kenosha, Racine and Waukesha area. I don't know how much further he reaches, but that's who I have my ongoing treatment groups with is Mr. Hanger.
All right, and he's a psychologist, behavioral consultant. What is he?
Uh, he's a mental health provider for the sex offender
All right, thank you.
recovery group.
And then you have another report from behavioral consultants. I'm not sure who drafted this, but it's 14 pages.
Dr.
and-
Deborah Collins.
Okay, and it looks like all of this was submitted to the court. Another one is the sentencing memorandum. And another one is a transcript, the court reporter's transcript of the sentencing hearing. So I imagine within this, there's a lot of information and details, and I would presume that the applicant would want this stuff reviewed and discussed in more detail, not in open, but in closed. Is that correct?
Open's fine with me. If it stays closed, people get uncomfortable and think that there's secrets. I have nothing to hide at this point. Everyone already knows the worst, so.
Okay.
Question. And. I'm confused why you're showing us this. Because the DA got facilities. For the most part, reading verbatim, mental health concerns, homeless, at risk of homelessness, or otherwise lacking a stable lifestyle. I don't know what you're sharing this for. The fact you couldn't get homeless, it's got nothing to do with why you're here tonight.
I sought treatment because of PTSD, suicidal ideations, and at the time I was homeless. I didn't have a home. My wife wasn't letting me back into the home, understandably. And I was living out of a hotel and at risk. And so,
Tom Siller just gave you a place to stay, that's all.
no, sir, that is their treatment program. You don't get a place to stay unless you're involved in their 6-week treatment program. And that is record of completion of the 6-week program.
So you were in the army for 20 years and retired. right?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old are your children?
Oldest is 14, 10, and my youngest will be 9 next month.
Girls, boys?
2 girls, 1 boy. Youngest is the boy.
And if you were to be denied today, where would you go?
I don't have it. I don't know. I can't go with them. I have no family in the state. I've been losing sleep these last couple of weeks thinking about it.
Do you feel like you're going to hurt anyone?
I'm no risk to anyone. I just want to figure it out.
Now, you said your neighbors all know. How far away?
My neighbors in my wife's neighborhood all know. My neighbors in my current neighborhood, we haven't met or talked or anything like that. I only have 2 that live there year round that are adjacent to me. The house otherwise immediately adjacent. They pop in and pop out whenever they come up. But in my community across the lake, all of our friends over there know, and I've been upfront about it since the beginning. In fact, they provided a couple of the character letters that the judge read.
Did this happen in Waukesha because the meetup was going to be in Waukesha?
It was in Brookfield, man. And that, I guess I can say I'm not a threat, but it is corroborated by the reports from Dr. Collins, Dr. Maddock, and Mr. Henger as well, which is why I turned those in and would allow everyone to see those.
Prior to this, what did you do for work?
The Army for 20 years. As I was getting ready to retire, I got an internship through the DoD with a construction company down in Chicago. I lost that job when I was arrested because I couldn't leave the state. They offered to let me return if everything was dismissed or I was found not guilty. Obviously, I wasn't, so I can't go back there. After my mental health treatment and finding the home, I got a job with another construction company here in Wisconsin that I really liked, but they couldn't keep me, and it's understandable.
Father-in-law's a judge.
No, these are all written to the.
No, my mother.
Where does your mom live?
Michigan. She came in for this. And my wife's family's from Pennsylvania. So
Mental health. Did you have prior to that? I mean, it says that you have a 7% disability for PTSD. You receiving any sort of counseling?
the PTSD diagnosis was post-arrest. Prior to arrest, I covered my symptoms for PTSD. I didn't seek treatment, thought I could handle it, and I paid for it. Add to that, I did have a diagnosis of TBI prior to that.
What was the time when you saved the young boy's life?
That was when I was stationed in Germany. My best friend Danny, William, lived across the street from us. His son was only a month older than my oldest.
Yeah, I'm somewhat confused, so bear with me. You said you want to see them else prior to the arrest, correct?
Correct, sir.
But yet, these behavioral consultants dated June seventh of 2024 indicate you've been in some sort of.
That was 2025. I was arrested in August of 23, sir.
Arrested in 23.
January of 24.
You've been there for some time with no issues,
Correct, ma'am.
and your family is across the lake
Yes, ma'am.
and they're supportive.
Yes, ma'am. Prior to this, I would see them on Wednesdays and weekends. Hang out. Currently, I'm going through approval to get to see them again with my probation agent. The court order says that I can, so it's just working through that process. Hopefully by the end of this week, I'll know.
Does anyone have any other questions? Otherwise, I'd like to have Lieutenant Gilly present. That would be okay.
Yeah, and for the applicant, do you have any other witnesses that you want to present?
No, I'm free to answer whatever questions you might come up with.
Okay, yeah, so let's have hear from Lieutenant Gilly, and if we need to hear back from the applicant, we can.
Okay, great.
So Lieutenant Gilly, Kenosha Sheriff. I did receive the police report from Brookfield PD. And I actually have a summary of the incident from the lead detective in this case. So I'm just going to read it to you. On August 23rd, 2023, I Detective Richard Tank, operating as a member of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, created an undercover account and posted an ad on doublelist.com, a known dating website that suspects communicate and engage in sexual acts with underage children. On August 23rd, 2023, I received a response from an individual with the email address of jtraveler84@yahoo.com and a response from the individual with the and the name of Josh Traveler. I began to have email communication with jtraveler84@yahoo.com, at which time I identified myself as a 12-year-old female. As email communication communicated, jtraveler84@yahoo.com made plans to meet me and began to detail sexual acts that he wanted to engage with me, a 12-year-old girl. During the email communications, photos were sent between myself and jtraveler84@yahoo.com. I sent edited photos of an individual that had the appearance of a 12-year-old female, to which the suspect responded with photos of himself, a white male between 35 and 40 years of age. The individual in the photo was identified as Joshua C. Cobalt, male white, date of birth 11/14/84. As jtraveler84@yahoo.com made plans to come meet me for food and sexual acts, an operations plan was set to take the emailer into custody. The meet location was set for the Domino's in Brookfield. At approximately 10:12 a.m., a 2015 Toyota Tacoma owned by Cobalt entered the parking lot of Domino's Pizza at 17305 Capitol Drive in the city of Brookfield. The person emailing from jtraveler84@yahoo.com advised that they were here, at which time a high-risk traffic stop was conducted on the vehicle by members of the city Brookfield Police Department. Contact was made with the sole occupant and driver, Cobalt, who was taken in custody. During the search of the vehicle, a package of condoms, personal lubricant, 2 cell phones, and a laptop computer were recovered as evidence. Cobalt was transported to the Brookfield Police Department and provided a brief statement. He was then transported to the Waukesha County Jail to be held on charges related to the investigation. So that's their summary. As what he presented is pretty accurate. There are just a couple of things that I just kind of want to bring up in relation to that. So there was, he did state that there wasn't, there were photos that were exchanged, but it was face pictures only. He did ask for a body pic of the 12-year-old. He also wanted to make sure that it wasn't somebody scamming him. So he was asking for this person to hold the email and a picture with a date and everything like that to make sure that it was actually who he was talking to. So a body picture was sent to Mr. Cobalt. This was with clothing. As far as how when the communication kind of led to as far as the true age of this person, because as he pointed out, this ad did say 20 years old in Brookfield, looking for 18 to 50-year-olds. I'm looking at the timeline here. And at 4:06 p.m., the detective emailed Mr. Cobalt and said, would it be okay if I was younger? And also went on to, I am 12, but almost 13. At 4:21 p.m., Mr. Cobalt said back, when you were younger, I thought you meant 20 or 19. So there was very early on in this communication, this email, it wasn't a day later like that. I mean, it was established quite quickly that it was a 12-year-old. So.
Thank you. Okay, Ramsey?
So do you feel you need to ask any more questions or receive any more information from the applicant or Lieutenant Gilly?
Have there been any calls to the house where he's at in the last year and a half? No. Okay,
But as far as he communicates.
thank you.
I'm sorry, the applicant?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this is the closing statement that I gave in court just for you guys to hear it. For years, I've lived in a state of gloom and darkness in the winter of my life. I watched as the hope drained from another man's eyes. I held my wounded mentor as he comforted me by telling me that he loved me and was proud of me, even though I felt responsible for his wounds. I carried the bodies of men I loved and respected. I wore the blood of other men on my uniform for weeks, staring at it when I could, and wondering who was on my arms and who was on my legs. I saw men blown to pieces in front of me. I survived when so many others did not, and I have wished so many times that I had not. I killed men, not out of malice or hatred, but because I loved the men to my right and left, and I had a job to do. I've often wondered about those men. Were they truly the evil terrorists we were led to believe, or were they like us, just scared kids doing what we were told was the right thing? Maybe they were jokesters or loved music. What if they were only there for their friends too? But I'm not sure I'll ever know. I don't say these things to garner sympathy or give excuses. I simply wish to provide context for my life and the events that would metastasize into the feelings of anger, hatred, remorse, guilt, and self-loathing. These feelings would lead me down a path of self-destruction. They led me to pushing away my family and contemplating suicide. These were the feelings that led me to believe that whatever happened to me did not matter, and nobody would care if I was gone. Those feelings led to my total breakdown in judgment that developed into my biggest failure, and I failed. I failed my wife, my children, my family, and my friends. The people who loved me most, I let everyone down. I still struggle with how exactly it all happened that my character failed so completely, but my actions have led to this, and I am truly sorry. I am sorry for the time and inconvenience that I have caused everyone involved in my case. I am repulsed by my behavior and wish I could take it all back. I am thankful, however. I am thankful that my actions were limited in their damage. I am thankful to the prosecution and the judge and their willingness to consider me as an individual. I am thankful that my self-destruction did not result in my death and that I am here to confront it. My life has taught me that if I am still breathing, then there's still something that can be done. I am thankful for the opportunity to overcome my failure. This experience led me to seek help to shake off the gloom that I've been living within. Through the guidance from professionals within the VA system, and the love and support of my family, friends, and community, I see now that people are there and do care about what happens to me. I have a new attitude and a new life ahead of me. The weather is breaking and winter is ending. Come whatever may, I know that I will overcome this and it will not define me or my life. I look forward to creating ways to assist other veterans like myself on their journey through the darkness and back to the light. I would like to part with some words from Rudyard Kipling poem, If. When you can see the things that you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. Yours is the world and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I will make something positive out of all of this. I know I will. And that's all I have. Thank you.
So, Madam President, some housekeeping logistics. So under 439-5, the application, the mechanism of review is that the board shall decide by a majority vote whether to grant or deny an exemption. If granted, the exemption may be unconditional or restricted to certain addresses or time. So it doesn't seem like the exemption can be conditioned in any way, other than the fact that it can be restricted to a certain address or time, meaning the address that he's applying for. The criteria been pointed out to you earlier, there's almost 11 of them. The board may review any information it deems pertinent, which I think we've gone through tonight. And as I understand from the applicant, there's no objection to the board having received your full application packet, including some of the court records in open session. Is that correct, sir? And I further understand that you understand that anything that's put before the board in an open session can also become a public record. And so you have no objection in that regard. Okay. And so the board has to go through those factors. Now, just because you have to schedule the hearing in 20 days doesn't mean you have to make a decision. This body can always adjourn, whether it's because you need to hear more information or you need to adjourn to deliberate. So I'm giving you that option as well. If you were to adjourn, you would do it to your next meeting, I suppose.
So if I do want to make a clarification that just for the record, that the agenda has a typo. So I did read that it was under code 493-5. It is actually 439-5. So I guess, Ramsey, when you say we have to go through them, how do we do that?
So for instance, the overriding criteria is that the board may review any information. Strike that. The board shall consider the public interest in protecting children as well as the interests of the offender seeking an exemption. That's kind of the standard. And then it gives you criteria, and making this determination under this provision then lists 11 factors by example only. I mean, there can be other factors that would be included for consideration. So for instance, the first factor is statutory provisions violated. So based on the information you've either heard or received in the packet, you would comment, you would make findings of fact as to what that violation is. Then we would go through this whole list. So another one is the relationship of offender and victim. You would go through that. What are the facts that you either heard or received in the packet before you? What are those facts? How do they pertain to that factor? How are they germane? Then you'd start to do the balancing. How are these factors playing out in your decision? The ultimate criteria, again, being the public interest criteria. So that might be a lot for anybody to consider. I mean, this is not a body that convenes to do these kinds of applications. And so if you need on a regular basis, and so if you need to adjourn to have that extra hour to go through the deliberations, you certainly can. It's up to the presiding officer and the board. Let me add that because your decision is something that can be reviewed, that you do need to have some articulation of the
Yes.
basis for your decision.
Right.
It can't just simply be an up and down vote, grant or deny. We need to have some discussion in this record. Development of those facts and how they apply to the factors.
So for clarification, Ramsey, if we adjourn, we would bring it up, we would reconvene in advance of another meeting.
On the 16th.
That's correct. Whichever meeting you would like, but obviously we'd want to do it. You don't want to punt it for 6 months, so one of your next meetings, we would bring it back.
Mm-hmm. So I would be in favor of adjourning until the 16th, only because this is a lot to go through and to talk through. And we have a board meeting that's supposed to start in 4 minutes. And I don't think that it would be in anyone's best interest to do this hastily. So that is my opinion.
I also agree.
Okay, so then you'll just need a simple motion to adjourn to another special meeting date.
We could do it either on the 16th or the 23rd, since we will all be here for training anyways. We could do it after the training because the training gets done, I think, early. Like
I'm sorry, you're
like
looking at what
2:30.
dates?
Either the
16th or 23rd.
16th or the 23rd.
What days?
Mondays.
I could do June 16th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I, one second, just to make sure. I think if it was at 5 o'clock, I would be fine. So then, I make a motion to, would I say adjourn this until?
Yes,
Okay. To adjourn this until June 16th at 5 PM.
I'll second it.
And when we do that, Ramsey, we pick up exactly where we left off today, so there will be no more, it's just board discussion, right, going through these?
yes and no. I mean, I don't know if you've officially closed the hearing yet. So the moment you closed it, then the hearing is closed, but we certainly need to get to the point of deliberations as well. So one way or another, given the time that you have your regular meeting starting in a few minutes, we do need to have an adjournment.
Okay,
So
so
you would adjourn and then we would pick up right where we're leaving off right now.
do I close the hearing now?
I don't know if you want to close it until you feel and the body feels you are ready to close the
Would like
hearing.
to leave it open if we could, in case anyone thinks of any other additional questions. Right?
Right.
So, all right, so we have a first and a second. So, Bill Barheit,
Yes.
trustee Brooks,
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Faber.
Yes.
Trustee Hopkins.
Yes.
Trustee Gant. And I'm a yes, motion carries.
All right, and Madam President, one last housekeeping. So all of those original copies that we handed should flow back to the clerk, and then she'll scan everything in and make sure you all get one big PDF of it. And that's okay with the applicant, sir? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, great. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Euchre and Hopkins, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.